Everyone were just standing there marveling, who is this person? We didn't know who he was. And he looks at me and he goes, oh, Sruta Goswami. Big smile on his face. And he continued walking. Why did he say that?
You were reading Krishna book.
I was reading Krishna book. Swami is also speaking, 10th canto. So he said, Sruta Goswami. And then they just walked up the stairs, and I was like, ah. This was Prabhupada always encouraging us. Everything he did was encouraging. If he chastised you as his servant, why weren't you at class? It was to encourage you because he sees he's drifting away. 3 months later, I was Prabhupada's servant because he was no longer attentive. And we've all been through it. But he was a wonderful person. I'll tell you a little more about Nanda Kumar, but I see it's already almost 1 o'clock, and we'll open it up for a few questions, if anyone has any questions or comments, or as Vaisheshika would say, corrections.
Thank you, Prabhu, for today's class. I was wondering if I could ask a question about yesterday's class.
Okay.
You mentioned about Srila Prabhupada saying 16 rounds, and he said 4 rounds, 4 rounds, 4 rounds, 4 rounds, as rehearsal. But we do know that 64 rounds was what was given to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj's disciples. So why did Srila Prabhupada say that?
I didn't ask him why, but I've heard that the Grahastas were chanting 16 rounds in those days as well. So that wasn't from Prabhupada, but that's what I heard. Those in the temple, they were chanting 64 rounds a day, but Grahastas, you're working 8-10 hours a day. In India, you're working 12 hours a day as a householder. So that's what I heard was the requirement for Grahastas. Yeah. So that's the short answer. I couldn't tell you anything more than that. Even when I was with Prabhupada as his servant, many times people said, how many rounds did Prabhupada chant? And I'd say, I don't know. It wasn't my business to ask what my guru is doing. Because all I know is I saw him with his hand in his bead bag a lot. And since we're at that point, I can tell you, one day, as I was with him for about a year, this was also in New Dwarka. New Dwarka was a wonderful place for different, Prabhupada said to me. So it was the afternoon and the bell rang. I would run into the room. You didn't walk, you ran. But you also didn't make any noise running. You had to learn, for me, being a servant meant being invisible. Your job is not to be noticed. Your job is to do your service. See this? And that's all of us. It's not our job to be, here I am. No, our job is to serve. So he rang the bell, and I was in the room, offered obeisances, and I sit up. I'm right in front of him, and his feet are out. Sometimes his feet would be out. You could see as you offered obeisances, and you would see his pink lotus bottoms come under the table, and you would look at them. But when I sat up from offering obeisances, he looked at me, and he's sitting, and he goes, now I have finished my 16 rounds. I can do any damn thing I want. That he said to me. Not he said but this was his servant who he knew very well. And he knew how to speak with him. He knew how to be humorous with him. He knew how to give him instructions in the sweetest way. And that's what he said. In other words, finish your rounds, and then you can do whatever you like. But finish your rounds. So that was his instruction. So I tell that story sometimes. But that was very sweet. Yes, Vishaka Saki Devi.
What was the size of the twigs for the Prabhupada's toothbrush? And what part of the tree? How
it was like the size of a pencil. Pretty much like a pencil.
The beginning of
The thickness of a pencil? Well, wherever you had to go to get to that spot. At that time in Vrindavan, you could buy like a dozen of them, wound up. You could buy them right at Lowy Bazaar. You would have them already there. And but we didn't do that. We would go out and hunt them.
So if they were sold at Lowy Bazaar like that means they were already dry, with the fresh ones?
Well, no, they could be
wet.
Yeah, it was better. They could be fresh because they're selling, in that time, this was popular. This is what was done. There was no plastics. Yes?
But what did you do with the Mahaprasad toothbrush?
We would give them out. Everything became Mahaprasadam. I said my very first Mahaprasadam was in May of 72 when I received Brahmin initiation. And Nanda Kumar was distributing, and it was breakfast. I said I was in his room for breakfast that day. So from the plate, and I got a orange peel. It was quartered, like I do, how we cut the orange in quarters. She has a different style, just take the peel off and you have the whole orange. But we cut them in quarters, and Prabhupada would eat everything out of it and leave the peel, just the peel. So my first Mahaprasadam was an orange peel. It wasn't sweet, even though it was from Prabhupada, but it tasted sweet, tasted very nice. It was very, very bitter, but it was from Prabhupada's lips. It was right from Prabhupada. So that was the most desired prasadam. Something that touched his lips, became the sweetest. Well, let's see if anyone else.
Special. It's a special question.
Okay.
So, you were young boys and the girls, Westerners, you have nothing to do with the spirituality, you didn't know what was the pure devotee, but you were always saying how you would relish anything from Prabhupada. So here you are, the Italian boy, and you are enjoying the orange peel from someone you just got to know. How did you have that faith?
Association, the philosophy, the desire that this material world was not a nice place. Like I said, I was living at home. At that time, my sisters were both gone. My mother was there. I was there going to school locally to a university. I had everything. I had my own car, drive back and forth, and there was no issue. And everything just turned very bleak. And I thought, what is the purpose of life? It was the very basic questions. Why am I doing this, Is there a God? What am I doing here? I was suffering. Even though externally there was no suffering going on, but internally I was suffering. And that's what I prayed and prayed and prayed, get me out of this situation. So, whatever it was, simplicity, past life, whatever it was, as soon as everything presented to me, I just, like I say, like a sponge, I accepted it, I absorbed it, and I was happy. I was happy, and I was surrounded by happy devotees. We were known in the news, in the news as bright-faced. That's what no one else was called. It was like an invented term by the news media. The Hare Krishna's bright-faced. Because everyone else, you would see them out on Harinam, everyone gloomy, going to work, coming back from work, struggling. What to speak of now, 50 years later, the struggles people have. My mother managed by herself with 3 children. Now people have 1, 2 children. Husband works, mothers work. Everyone's working and they still can't survive. This is what it's like now. It is like that in the West now. Everywhere. But I was just very happy. So that's also, I think Krishna, when you first come, Krishna gives you a lot of bliss. Gives you a lot of bliss to get you started. And then gradually you realize this is a process that my whole life I have to dedicate. Like I said yesterday, no hard and fast rules. See, that's the beginning. In the beginning, there's no rules, no regulations, only ecstasy. That's what you chant and be happy. And ultimately, that's all you chant and be happy. But that in-between area, you have to become serious. Right? Prabhupada said, you get initiated, I've given you everything, and I've given you the instructions. But if you don't follow, what can I do? That's your problem, not my problem. I've given you the way, given you the method, given you everything to get out of the material world. But if you reject it, then that's your loss. I've given you the opportunity. All right. Hare Krishna. We'll be back tomorrow, and I think I did pretty good today, staying in a scheduled area. It was good for me too. And we'll see you all tomorrow at the same time, hopefully. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Candramauli Maharaj ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
What time?
11:30.
11:30?
11:30, yes.
Okay.
Because they go to 11 and they need, little exercise, walking.
They only got 5 minutes. They only got 5 minutes.
I only have 5 minutes. Oh, you went over time.
It was their fault.
We do that. And now it's lunchtime, so we're good. But we have another, I have until the 9th day. So today's the 3rd day, so I got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6 more days. I think we'll be okay.